The Relativity of Disability. Adventures in the Boundary Waters Canoe Area. A few years ago, I went on a dog sledding trip to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area in northern Minnesota. I went with a group that specialized in offering adventures for people with different abilities and disabilities, mainly because the price was right. In addition to dog sledding, we would be snowshoeing and cross-country skiing. Our group had a fairly even mix of people with and without disabilities. In addition to several couples and a handful of singles like me, there was a family of 5 whose youngest member was a boy with muscular dystrophy. There was also a woman about my age and her sister-in-law who was non-communicative and had severe developmental deficits. Our trip coordinators explained some safety rules to follow as we set out the next day into minus double-digit temperatures over Bearskin Lake. They told us to spread out as our group crossed the lake to our cabin, walking at a good distance behind the person in front of us, so as not to put too much weight on any one part of the ice, which that morning had been measured at 3 feet thick, more than adequate for safety. We trusted their reassurances that the danger was slim, but listened intently as they explained some basic rescue procedures in case one of us were to fall through. This explanation was just a precaution, like when the flight attendant shows you how to put the oxygen mask on in case of an emergency. I barely acknowledge those instructions anymore, but I hung on to every word about how not to die in northern Minnesota in February. Periodically throughout that first evening, one of the disabled members of the group would ask for the precautions to be repeated. I too felt comforted to hear the reassurances and instructions again, and was glad I didn't have to be the one to ask. On the second day, my group set out to go cross-country skiing. I was a fairly experienced skier and offered to help our guide gear up the severely disabled sister-in-law. We made sure she had her mittens on, her coat was zipped, and her hood was secured. We put her skis on and showed her how to hold the poles. Then, without any instruction, she took off as though she'd been skiing her whole life. I got my skis and poles coordinated and set out soon after, but within 3 strides I was down in the snow, watching this other woman gracefully glide on with our leader. It was at that moment that I realized I was the one with the greater disability.